Good morning again. This is Patrick at Qdabra, and I'm pleased to have Joanne Alfafar with me today. We are presenting our first webinar for 2019, and we've chosen to talk about mobile enabling your forms again. So we've got a really cool demo and webinar for you today, and I want to thank Joanne for being instrumental in delivering this in time for the webinar this morning. Thank you so much, Joanne. So without any further ado, today we are talking about techniques for enabling your forms. And I wanted to ask everyone, I want to wish you all a Happy New Year. I also want to ask you a quick question about what you would like to see us present in 2019. So we've got a quick poll for you. I'm going to launch this. Just a few options here. GoToMeeting says it's distributing the poll, so hopefully you should see something soon. Okay, great. So it looks like we have one person voting. There we go. So there's a couple questions here. What would you like to see in 2019? We did 27 webinars last year. We focused on new techniques. We focused on new cool web service connections. We focused on Power Apps and Power BI. And it looks like we've got about half of you wanting to do the Power Apps and Power BI stuff, and about 29% each, and then new techniques is about the same, and then there's a couple people saying mashups. So thanks a lot for answering that first poll. I have one more quick question for you, and this is kind of a question that just to give us a sense of where you're coming from today. What is your environment? Are you online? Are you using SharePoint on-prem? Maybe you don't have SharePoint. We didn't give you that option. Sorry about that. But it looks like most of you are online. I'm going to let it go for a few more seconds here. So it looks like we have some people on 2013 still and 2016. Nobody is on 2010. Thank you. Good job there. And then most of you that are on online 365. That's great to hear. So 5 techniques today. We'll look at these 5 techniques. We've actually demoed these 5 techniques in webinars previously and in our training class last September. So we have how-tos, labs, documents that you can follow to implement these techniques with your forms, and each slide will have a link to download the technique or a link to watch the old webinar. So this is kind of in some ways a summary of some of these techniques that we've demoed in previous webinars, some in 2017, most of them in last year as well. So the first technique we wanted to look at is how to make your forms look good. So on the left here you see what this form looks like in the desktop, and on the right on the mobile form. So we've sent out a link to you. If you activated your cell phone, you will be able to fill out this form on your cell phone. I'm going to switch and show you this form in my desktop here. So we have a form that automatically is going to try to detect who I am on load, and it's going to use a cell phone SMS text authentication to do that. And to first of all, we have to look up the person's information. So when you get this this challenge here at the beginning, you're going to need to type in your email just as you entered it in if you activated your account. Now, if you didn't activate your account, it's okay. We'll send you the link after the webinar, and you can do it afterwards and see the same demo. This is on my desktop, obviously, but this form is designed to be responsive. And what that means is that as the screen dimensions change, as the resolution of the device changes, the form matches the resolution, and that is a nice experience. There's not white space. So we'll confirm, and then it's going to look up my phone number and ask me to confirm the last 4 digits. Now this is slightly confusing because the SMS text is also 4 digits, so just keep that in mind, that you need to type in the first 4 digits are for your phone number, the last 4, and then it's going to send you a text message and ask you to confirm. And so we'll wait, and the text came in, and I just got it. So this is showing, we'll talk a little bit more about this technique in a second, but the technique essentially is a way to authenticate users if they're not part of your tenant, your 365 tenant. So they're, in other words, they're external, and they can then fill out your form. So we have a very quick, simple survey here for you and you can just type, you check off whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. And then we'll just fill it out. But what I want to show is, with this demo, is I want to show the other techniques. So we're going to highlight Joanne's wonderful efforts today. So what you'll see here is you'll see a pop-up on your phone with a picture control. And this is a demo, of course, so it's kind of simplistic. But basically what this allows you to do is to take a picture of yourself or something that you're looking at, and attach it to the form. In this case, I'm going to just pick a picture from my computer. In fact, I guess I have a cat picture. I'll throw a cat picture in. And it's going to add this cat picture, and then it's going to, of course, the key technique here is showing you how to capture a photo. So in this case, on my desktop, I'm not capturing a photo from my camera. I'm just attaching an image. But it works fine with the camera as well. You just click through it. Once we've submitted it, it's going to prompt us and say, do you want to downsize the image? The image was about, 1.6 megabytes. Some of the phone images can be quite large, and for that reason, we give this option of downloading this, and this was a scaling down to make the connection go more quickly. 10 megabytes upload from a phone might take more seconds than people want to wait, so we give the option of changing it. So let's change it to large, and we'll scale it down. So the form actually does the scaling before it submits the image. And this is my desktop, so it shouldn't be very slow. And you can see it upload the image. It provides a link to that. We'll see that image upload to a separate library in a second. The next feature that we're demoing is the signature piece. So we also have the ability to, this glass signature. We can capture a signature on our form and then submit the form. So this is the quick end-to-end demo that I just showed. I'll show you where the form went, and we have a library here on our 365 site, and if I refresh this is still in classic mode, but the FormsViewer tool supports modern now. We have a tool that allows you to apply it to all your modern sites, so you can take advantage of the new modern views along with the Power BI integrations for modern. Okay, so there's my form, and if I open it up in my browser here, you'll see that the results that I typed in, the things I filled out, along with, we should see, hopefully, a link to the image. And there's the link to the image. There's my signature. If I click on the image link, you'll see my cat picture. Okay, so that's a quick end-to-end demo. So let's talk about what we just saw. So the first thing we saw was this scaling on the device. So if you're on your cell phone, it looks good. It wraps the text correctly. If you're on your desktop, it also looks good because it gives you more horizontal dimensionality. So the reason why this is important is because everyone's got these high resolution devices. I just got a new computer for the holidays. It's a Windows 10 machine. Unfortunately, it's I was going to demo today, but there are some setup issues I'm still trying to deal with. It's a MacBook Air running Windows 10, and it's working really well. But it's also 2800 or so by 1500 dots per inch, so it's really a high resolution monitor. Almost all the devices that are being shipped today are high res, so you definitely want the form to match those high resolution monitors, so it looks good. It's really easy to do this. You add a CSS to your form. Let's take a look at the form. And for those of you who've seen this before, this is nothing new, but here's the form in the InfoPath Designer. And if we look at the rule here on load, we have a rule that's actually loading a resource, and the resource is fullwidth.css. So we've actually added that resource to the form. And if we look at our data resources, we can do this in FormsViewer as well, but it is a resource file that we've added there to the form. And this full width CSS allows us to scale the view, the HTML in the view, to match the size of the screen, or the size of the resolution. So specifically what it's doing is it's giving you column widths, like it's giving you a ratio of percentages for each column you have. If you have a lot of columns, it may not look as well as it does if you have less than like 6 columns. But you can change the CSS to make it better. We have a QRules command, load resource, that loads the CSS and activates it. and then the CSS is running on the view. So typically what you're going to do is you're going to look at that CSS as part of our lab. You may need to tweak it a little bit if there are any artifacts or it doesn't look pristine for your form, specifically if the colors aren't right. You're going to want to go back into the CSS and change the colors, and the document describes a little bit how to do that. So that's the first technique. Any questions on that? And Joanne, can you still hear me okay? Are we all good with the audio and the visuals?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Audio is
Okay.
good.
Okay. How's the screen? Can you see the screen? Add glass.
Yes, I can see the
Great.
screen. Yeah.
Wonderful. Just checking, because the last time we did this, I was muted for the first minute of the webinar. That was terrible. Okay, so the second technique that you saw was this glass signature. And this glass signature allows you to capture an image of somebody who's scrolling they're signing their name on their desktop or with their mouse or on their screen, their mobile device. And this technique is really cool. We demoed this technique over a year ago on September 7th, 2017, and you can go and look at our webinar for that. But basically, you're going to be adding a couple more resources, just like we did for the responsive design. We have a CSS that allows you to have this control, and the control is that signature pad. And so you can add the signature pad to your form, and then you can capture the image that is rendered from the signature pad. So we actually provide you with the little bit of JavaScript and the CSS that will do that, and that's part of that blog post that you see here, and I will send out the slides at the end. I'm not going to go into enormous detail here, but I just want to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing, and then you can go back later if you like this technique, and you can apply it to your form. And if you have any issues whatsoever, you can just contact us, and we'll help you walk through it free of charge. So there's a couple other notes here, but in general, it's a really neat technique to grab someone's signature. And the reason why this is important is because people still like to do physical signatures. Now, more and more we see biometric authentication, and that's actually, I think, the third technique is the biometric. Now, when I say biometric, I'm really talking about using your cell phone to authenticate via this SMS text. So because the cell phones all have face identification or finger identification, or they require some 6-digit code. Biometrics are the first two. The 6-digit code obviously is not biometric, but that's really what we're talking about now, is actually using a phone to create greater security. And the security is better because we're not using a login. So there's no password to hack. They have a phone. You've registered your email. When the form is sent to you, you open it up, and the form on open is going to challenge you. So, well, who are you? You type in your name, and then it looks up your phone number, which is encrypted. And we'll take a quick look at this. So we have everyone's user information here that logged in for this activation. I've been doing this webinar a couple times in the last few months. So there's a bunch of people in here already that are old, but if I refresh this, we should see some new people show up at the bottom here. And this list is the list of the people who activated their emails for the webinar demo. So these old ones, these new ones here at the bottom, you can see the three people or so who actually decided to activate, and I actually sent the activation to them. They may not have activated. If they activated, we'll see on the right here that there's an activation. Actually, is that right? I'm not in the wrong place. I need to go back to the admin page. So here's the admin page. Here are all the users. And if I refresh this, we should see the people who activated. And we didn't have a lot of people activate because we got the email out late. But it looks like Shane activated. His phone number is encrypted. And so what that means is that we're not actually storing the phone number in a way that people can read it. And so we're trying to be sensitive to people's information. Now, obviously, the email is stored there, but we have to have some way of looking up the email to get the phone number. So that's the SMS text code is what it's doing. And let me just switch to another slide quickly, and I'm going to clear my voice here 1 second. So in general, this process is a 3-step process. We authorize a list of people to join, in this data collection process. That's the first row on the top here, this first step. So it sends out a bunch of emails to people who have said they're interested in filling out a form. And then they activate their accounts using this user info form that asks for their email, their phone number, and then it encrypts the phone number, sends them a text message to validate who they are to the phone number that they gave. They enter the text message, that validation code, then we know that we've got them, and we encrypt the phone number and store it in that SharePoint list that you saw. Once that's done, the user process form, which is the webinar demo survey, will challenge the user who opens it and ask them who they are. They'll type in their email. It'll look up their phone number, decrypt it, send them a text message. They'll enter the text message, and then it will allow them to fill out the form. And that's what you saw I did a moment ago with the demo. So this is a really great technique because, like I said earlier, it's stronger verification and it's more secure than SharePoint logins. There's no password to be guessed or hacked. It's on demand, so we only send out the request when we want to, so it's a limited time, so it's very restricted, and it's of course using the biometric device that they've got. So that's the third technique, and it's better security, so that's the reason. How do you do it? Well, take a look at our webinar from August 9th. We do have a downloadable package. You can see at the very bottom of this slide, you can download our training from September. It's the Lab 2 from day 3. You will need to create a free Twilio account. Once you go beyond a couple thousand SMS text messages, Twilio will start charging you 1 cent or so per text. It's pretty cheap, so it's not really a big issue. But you can deploy this technique to any of your forms to extend them beyond the boundaries, the walls of SharePoint, or to use them to allow people externally who may even have an account to participate in your process, even though they may be on their phones and not logged in to your SharePoint site. Now, nowadays, a lot of people have login tools that allow them to automatically log into SharePoint, but this is another way to do it. So the fourth technique that we saw was this ability to capture photos. We captured a photo, we took a picture, and or we selected a photo, and we clicked save, and then when we hit submit, it's going to ask us to scale it. Now the scaling is really cool. We did a demo webinar in November of last year showing you how to alter the image size, and I want to do a quick shout out to Peter Miller at DCS and thank him for this inspiration here. They were using a form that had a large photo, and it was taking a lot of time to upload, many seconds. So we came up with this technique. It was already in QRules, but it wasn't in FormsViewer, so we added the alter image command to FormsViewer and did a webinar on it in November. And this allows you to scale the image down. Now, if you want to do optical character recognition on the image to use Google's machine learning algorithms to detect the content of the image, and it may be text, it may be a cat. Google has the ability now to identify various objects, and you can query Google and get that information. There's other services. Microsoft has a machine learning API that does the same thing. We could have called Microsoft's AI web service as well, but we chose Google. You're going to want a picture that's of a certain resolution, and I think that the baseline is about 1,000 by 700, the 1052 or whatever it is by 768. That's the minimum resolution that we recommend, and if you go to Google, they'll recommend the same resolution for text processing. If it's just an image where you're trying to identify what kind of animal it is, it doesn't matter so much. And Google will work on smaller images too. We've done demos with really small receipts, 300 pixels by 200, and it works just fine. Maybe you'll miss a few characters, but the higher resolution, the more confidence you have that Google will provide something that's actually meaningful. So just keep that in mind when you're scaling it. You're going to want to tell your users, look, we have a little asterisk here, and I don't think you can see the asterisk text down here, but basically the asterisk means this is best for OCR. And I don't know, Joanne, if do we have the text in the form? Does it actually have the asterisk at the bottom saying choose one of these for OCR? I forget.
Yeah, we actually have that.
I thought I saw it. It's just not in the image. Okay, so it's in the form, but it's just not in the image. So looks like we have a question. We have one more technique to talk about. Let me just take a look at the question here. So Antonio, thank you for asking to enclose a signature with a certificate from Microsoft certifying entity. Yeah, I mean, you could take a picture of the form and you could then hash it with a certificate to essentially provide the same functionality that the digital signatures provided for InfoPath. We are actually thinking about adding digital signature support for a couple customers in the February-March timeframe to FormsViewer. And we'll do the same thing. So in InfoPath, what happens when you digitally sign a form is it actually takes a snapshot of the view, and then it takes your certificate and it hashes that with the image, creating a key, like a locked image that cannot be tampered with. And that prevents people from editing the data because it can always check it against the image. So we can do the same thing with FormsViewer in the future. It's relatively easy to take a snapshot. We have a PDF generation command called render form that does that. It renders the form and the server provides an image to the client. And then we could take that image and hash it with your certificate. So we just need a way of attaching a certificate, a digital certificate, to a form to hash that, to combine that with the image to create that digital signature. And I'm guessing that's what you're talking about there with that question. But if not, ask it again. So the last technique then was these pop-ups. So InfoPath out of the box doesn't support overlays, that it doesn't support pop-ups when you're in the browser. We've added this technique to FormsViewer because we want to basically get timely attention from the user. We want to quickly ask them something at the end, and are you sure you want to submit? Please confirm, that kind of a thing. And we want to do it in a way that is pleasing to the eye. So the overlay gives us that ability. It overlays the form in the background with a pop-up, and it's a pleasant user experience. We did a webinar on this over a year ago. We have some various samples. In fact, from the training we did in September of last year, we have 2 labs on this in day 4 to show you how to do the pop-ups and the overlays. So pop-ups give you this standard box, which doesn't look super good on this phone image. We need to do some work to maybe scrunch this down a bit so it's not completely the width of the phone screen. And we will do that. I was talking to Joanne about that earlier. But that's the pop-up there. And you can customize the text on the pop-up and the buttons. The overlay is what you see underneath the pop-up here on the right or on the left in the desktop version. And that's basically providing a nice section in your form that will show up on top of the other form when you do some interaction with it. And we've talked about how to do this. In general, we forgot to put all of our steps down here, but you can take a look at this document. And in general, you're going to add a new section to your form with some rules. You'll add a little JavaScript file, kind of like that signature control. You'll edit your XSLT. This is the tricky step, but it's in the document. And then there's a few other minor things that you need to do to get it to work. It's about a 30-minute operation, so it's not really that complex. Any more questions for me? I want to end, while you're thinking of a question to ask me, or you just want to say high five, see you later, or whatever. Happy New Year once again. Thanks for being here. We've been in business now for over 15 years. I want to just stress that we're a consulting company. We're trying to be technology agnostic. We're doing a lot of Power Apps these days. We're also doing FormsViewer because FormsViewer is a great sustainable option for people with form investments. It's the very quick, not lift and shift, but upgrade in place option for your forms, and it provides these extra features that we've demoed today, along with in other webinars. But we're here for you, and we're constantly looking at new techniques that might be useful to help your solutions. So the FormsViewer piece is really, we're pitching FormsViewer mainly because we have a lot of customers who are currently trying to figure out what to do with their InfoPath investment. And we're recommending to go to Power Apps if you have a new form. We're also recommending that if you have a large installation of forms, you may want to switch over to FormsViewer as a stopgap to sustain those solutions and prevent any kind of a loss of functionality if Microsoft, changes something. If you're on-prem, it doesn't matter. Microsoft won't upgrade you automatically. But if you're online, Microsoft might change things relatively quickly. We just saw them decide to start charging for Power Apps. They're charging $7 per user per month now, starting in February. It was free up until the middle of December. And I just got an email yesterday saying that my license was expiring the next day. So they're getting a little bit aggressive about trying to monetize these extra features in Power Apps. And FormsViewer is essentially free for on-prem. It's a very small fee for the per tenant-wide forms. So it's not per user. It's not per, we do have a per month pricing, but it's very inexpensive. It's cents per submit. And we don't charge for the first 3 months. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We've got a lot of cool features in it. And any more questions for me? Joanne, thank you so much for providing the demo today. It really went well. And we look forward to seeing you here next week. We're going to do a couple Power App webinars this quarter. We're going to do some webinars on some other techniques. We also have our FormsViewer training coming up. It's free. The class is almost capped out. We're going to limit it to 12 people. And it's on January 22nd. It's for 4 days. It's 2 hours a day. It's free. If you're interested, go to Qdabra.com and click on Education and register. Even if you're only there for a couple of days, we are going to be taping it. It's very similar content to the September class. If you're in the September class, there's going to be a couple new things that we cover. Joanne, did you want to add anything to this? Say hello to people? Say goodbye to people?
Yeah. Well, yeah, nice presentation, Patrick.
Thanks for being here late at night. I know it's late there in the Philippines. But I want to thank everyone again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you here next week or the following week. And like I said, if you're interested in that training, just go up here and register. We look forward to seeing you in the class. Have a great day.